I was halfway through approving a $3.2 million acquisition contract when my mom texted me. Can you cover the property taxes this month? Just until your brother gets his bonus. It was always phrased like that. Just until. Just this once. Just while we wait on Daniel. Except Daniel was always about to come through. And I was always the one who actually did. I stared at my phone for a long moment, then locked the screen without responding. The boardroom was quiet. 12 people waited for my go-ahead. I gave it with a nod. Approved. Let legal wrap it up by end of day. We move fast or we get outplayed. There was a hum of approval. My assistant, Maddie, handed me the printed summary I needed for the next hour's investor call. Another 10-hour day. Another deal closed. Another day I paid to keep other people's lives afloat while mine kept climbing. And they still called Daniel the success story. Before we dive in, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below letting us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. We're excited to connect with all of you, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing content. Now back to the story. Daniel Moreno. Harvard Law, corporate attorney, father's pride, mother's precious baby boy. Eliza Moreno. Me, the daughter who didn't go to law school, who didn't follow the script, who left home with a duffel bag and half a scholarship, and somehow built a software firm that turned into a $120 million valuation before I turned 33. I always wondered what it would take for my family to see me. Really see me. Turns out, not even millions would do the trick. Growing up, it was all about Daniel. Daniel, who brought home B+s and got a trip to Six Flags. Daniel, who forgot our mom's birthday but still got a best son ever cake. Daniel, who broke the neighbor's window and convinced Dad I did it. And Dad believed him. Of course he did. Me. I was quiet, nose always in a book, fingers stained with ink or later keyboard grime. I won math competitions. I taught myself JavaScript at 13. I got into Caltech and turned it down for a full ride at a state school because we couldn't afford the extra housing. Daniel got into Harvard and suddenly, affording things wasn't a problem anymore. But I still paid off his bar exam fees. Quietly. Privately. Like a dutiful daughter. Like a ghost. Because being the invisible one came with a sick kind of freedom. I got to build without being watched. I got to fail quietly, and then rise loudly. And now here I am. And yet, the property tax still comes to me. Well, that night, I drove out to Valencia for Sunday dinner. I don't even know why I still go. Some part of me, the tired part that hasn't aged since I was 15 and standing outside my father's study with a homemade science fair trophy, still wants them to say it. You did good, Eliza. But they never do. My mother met me at the door with an apron on and a kiss on the cheek like we were in some 1950s sitcom. Eliza, sweetheart, you didn't have to bring dessert. I didn't, I said, holding up a bottle of wine. Figured we could all use a drink. She laughed like that was the funniest thing she'd heard all day. You and your fancy taste. Cabernet, wow. We usually just do the box stuff when it's not a holiday. I forced a smile. Yeah, figured you deserved something decent. My dad was already in his recliner. Fox News on low volume. He grunted in my direction. Eliza. Work good. He nodded. Busy. Closed a deal this week. Might expand into Latin America. Huh. He didn't look up. That's something. You know, Daniel's firm just landed a pharmaceutical client. Big one. Course. Good for him, I said. Yeah. You two could team up someday, he said with a chuckle, as if I were the side hustle and Daniel was the empire. Legal and tech, the dream team. That was when Daniel walked in, sunglasses on like he was famous, tie loosened like he just won a major case instead of probably sitting in traffic. Hey fam, he said, tossing his keys in the bowl by the door. Smells amazing. I'm starving. My mom was already fluttering around him, fixing him a plate. My dad muted the TV. I poured myself a glass of wine and leaned on the kitchen counter, watching them swarm around him like he was gravity. He gave me a little nod, the kind you give an intern who brought the right kind of coffee. Hey, El. Hey. The dinner table was the usual mess of overcooked arroz con pollo and undercooked expectations. "So," Daniel said around a mouthful, "we're thinking of buying a second car. Maria wants something safer now that the baby's crawling." "Oh," Mom said. "We still haven't seen the baby in person." "Yeah, we'll bring him by eventually. Things are just crazy right now." Of course, she said quickly. "You're so busy. We understand." I stayed quiet, sipping my wine. "Eliza," my dad said like he'd just remembered I was there. "You still doing that thing with apps?" "I run a SaaS firm, Dad. We do AI integrated resource tracking." Right, he said like he understood any of that. "That's good. Stable, right? You're still renting that condo?" "I own it." Daniel let out a short laugh. "Damn, Elle didn't know tech paid that well." Smiled. "I know. Surprises even me sometimes." There was an awkward pause. The kind of pause that asks if you're going to offer to help again before anyone says it out loud. My mom was the first to crack. She looked at me with those soft, imploring eyes. "Eliza, I hate to ask again, but the tax bill came early. We thought Daniel's bonus would hit by now, but it's been delayed." I set my fork down slowly. "How much is it?" $3,100, she said. "Just until Daniel's bonus comes through," I finished for her. He cleared his throat. "I told the firm I needed it expedited. Not my fault payroll's behind." "I'll wire it tonight," I said flatly. My dad grunted his approval like I was a damn bank. Daniel gave me a nod like I was a nice waitress. And for one brief second I saw it all clearly. I saw how they looked at me. Not with pride, not even with gratitude. With expectation. Like I owed them something just for being the one who didn't fall apart. Like being the responsible one meant I'd signed some invisible contract to pick up every piece they dropped. They loved Daniel. They used me. I was putting my coat on when Daniel caught me by the door. "Hey, Elle, listen, thanks for covering that." I looked at him. Really looked. His collar was wrinkled. His watch looked newer than last time, Rolex, maybe fake, maybe not. There were faint lines under his eyes, like he hadn't slept well in weeks. "You okay?" I asked before I could stop myself. He hesitated. "Just a lot going on at work. Clients, you know. One of the partners is being a dick about some billing stuff." He nodded. "Well, take care of yourself." He smiled. "I always do." He turned to leave, but something in me shifted. Something that had been still too long. "Daniel." "Yeah. Did you know Mom's been asking me for money since you started law school?" His smile faltered. "What mean?" "I didn't think. She said she didn't want to stress you out. You were studying." "Right. And when you got married, she said you had a new family to support." "Elle. And now she says your bonus is late. But I pay. Every time." He was quiet. "You ever think about paying me back?" He exhaled through his nose. "You make good money. You don't need it." And there it was. The sentence that settled everything. I don't need it. So it doesn't matter. So I don't matter. I left without another word. The next morning I was back at my office when the call came in. My receptionist looked hesitant. "There's someone from a firm called Brackett and Price on line 2. Said it's about Daniel Moreno." My blood ran cold. Picked up the line. "Ms. Moreno. This is Olivia Grafton from Brackett and Price. I'm sorry to disturb you, but your brother Daniel is currently under internal investigation. We believe there may be financial misconduct involving firm accounts. We were told you might have insight." The world tilted for half a second. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Because suddenly I wasn't the backup plan anymore. I was the cleanup crew. Again. But this time I wouldn't play the good daughter. The call from Brackett and Price left me frozen in my office chair longer than I'd care to admit. Daniel's name echoed in my mind like a bad ringtone, dragging me back to all those nights I quietly wired money to keep his life afloat. Only now it sounded less like a favor and more like a trap. I told Olivia I'd cooperate. After all, if Daniel was in trouble, The least I could do was find out why. But deep down, I already knew this wasn't going to be a simple fix. No amount of money or favors could clean this up. Not this time. The next day, I met Olivia at a downtown cafe. The kind of place that tried hard to look hip but smelled faintly of burnt espresso and desperation. She slid a manila folder across the table. "Your brother's been creative with firm accounts," Olivia said softly. "Using client funds to cover personal expenses. And it's not small. 6 figures over the last year." I blinked. 6 figures. That was more than I'd earned in a year before my company took off. And the money wasn't coming from thin air. Somewhere someone was paying the price. "Why come to me?" I asked. "We were told you're the only person Daniel trusted enough to lend money to." I swallowed hard. That hurt more than the accusation. "I'm not a bank," I said, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. Olivia gave me a sympathetic look. "No, you're family. And unfortunately, family gets pulled in whether they want to be or not." That night I called Mom. She answered right away, her voice bright but strained. "Eliza, I was hoping you'd call. We need your help again." Closed my eyes. "Mom, I know." She sighed. "We thought Daniel could cover this, but the firm's tight on him. We didn't want to bother you until now." "Until now," echoed. "We're proud of Daniel. You know that. But this is different." "Different," I repeated, trying to keep calm. Mom hesitated. "We didn't tell you everything. We thought it was better to protect you." I felt the weight of years of silence, of secrets, of being the invisible sibling who picked up the pieces. Protect me from what? From the other end, silence. Finally, Mom whispered, "We helped cover some of Daniel's earlier mistakes." I laughed bitterly. "You mean you've been using me as a backup while you kept Daniel's mess quiet?" "I didn't say that." "No. Then what?" asked, voice rising. "How long have you known?" "Almost 2 years. But we didn't know how to fix it without tearing the family apart. So you leaned on me." "Yes." I let the phone drop onto my shoulder and stared at the ceiling, mind spinning. The people who taught me loyalty were the very ones who betrayed it. The next day, I drove to Daniel's apartment. I didn't know what I expected. Denial, anger, an apology. What I found was exhaustion. Dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled, the smell of cheap takeout and stale cologne. "Hey, Elle," he said quietly. No bravado, no charm. I stepped inside and sat on the worn couch. "We need to talk." He nodded. "I know. It's a mess. How did it get this bad?" Daniel sighed. "Clients pay up front for cases. I was managing a few accounts and one slipped. I covered it with another, thinking I'd make it back. But then more slipped. It became a spiral." "A Ponzi scheme," I said flatly. "Yeah. But it was supposed to be temporary. I just wanted to keep things afloat until the big cases closed." "And you never thought to tell anyone?" "I didn't want to disappoint Dad." I clenched my fists. Dad already disappointed me. Daniel looked away. "I know I put you through a lot. I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't pay bills, Daniel." I left his apartment and headed to my parents' house. I had to see them, to confront the family that always demanded my loyalty but never gave me any in return. My dad was in his study when I arrived, papers spread out like a fortress. "Dad," I said, voice steady. He looked up, surprise flickering before settling into guardedness. "Eliza, we need to talk about Daniel." He sighed heavily. "I've been avoiding this." "Why?" I asked. "Because it's inconvenient. Because it shatters the perfect image." Dad rubbed his forehead. "We wanted to protect you and your brother. Your mother and I, we made mistakes. We covered for Daniel's debts before, hoping it was just a phase." "You used me as the fallback," I said, cutting through the quiet. Dad's face hardened. "We did what we thought was best. By hiding it from me. By letting me carry the weight alone." His eyes softened. "We thought you were strong enough." "I am strong enough," I said quietly, "but not your punching bag." He stood up slowly. You don't have to do this alone. We're family. Family, I repeated. Who doesn't see me until there's a problem? That night, I went through emails and bank statements, trying to piece together the full scope of Daniel's mess. Every transfer from me to them. Every expense disguised as a business cost. Every lie hidden behind a polite smile. The betrayal wasn't just from Daniel. It was from everyone. I called my best friend and lawyer, Mia, and explained the situation. She listened, then said the thing I dreaded. You need proof, Mia said. If you want to protect yourself and maybe even stop this, you need evidence. So I started recording conversations, taking screenshots, saving receipts. I wasn't just the family ATM anymore. I was becoming the watchdog. The weeks that followed were a blur of meetings with Olivia, tense phone calls with Daniel, and awkward dinners where the family pretended nothing was wrong. Daniel grew distant, blaming me for the investigation leaking. Mom cried more than she cooked. Dad retreated further into his study. And me. I was running a business, cleaning up a family mess, and slowly realizing I wasn't just angry. I was ready. Ready to stop being the invisible one. Ready to demand the respect I'd earned. Ready to rewrite the rules. One night, after another silent dinner, I confronted Daniel directly. You want my help? Yes. He nodded. But this time it's on my terms. Full transparency. No more lies. He swallowed. Deal. I pulled out the file I'd compiled and slid it across the table. Everything you've done. Every expense, every fake invoice. I'm handing this to your firm, and the authorities if I have to. His eyes widened. Eliza, please. No more secrets, I said. For the first time in years, Daniel looked scared. Not of me, but of the consequences catching up to him. That night, as I lay awake, I felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and clarity. I was tangled in a family web I never asked to be part of, but now I held the scissors. The price of loyalty had been high, but the cost of betrayal was even higher, and I was done paying for their mistakes. The morning the news broke, my phone didn't stop ringing. Texts piled up. Emails dinged relentlessly. The quiet, professional life I'd carved out was suddenly buried under a landslide of headlines. Lawyer under investigation for embezzlement, Moreno family scandal rocks legal community. From Harvard to handcuffs, the fall of Daniel Moreno. I watched it all from my office window, the city buzzing beneath me as if nothing had changed. But everything had. I didn't leak the story. I never had to. Someone at Brackett and Price saw the evidence I handed over and took it public. Daniel's partners wanted the scandal out in the open before it ate the firm alive. My phone calls to Daniel went unanswered. His silence spoke volumes. No, Eliza, I'm sorry. No, help me. Just cold distance. And the family. They collapsed quietly in on themselves. My mother called that night, voice trembling. Eliza, please, we need you. I could hear my father in the background, silent but heavy with shame. My brother's fiancé called later, begging me to help Daniel somehow. Even clients and distant relatives reached out, hoping I'd bail Daniel out of this nightmare. But I was done. I sat at my kitchen table, looking at the final spreadsheet I'd sent to the firm's investigators. The full, brutal truth. Every dollar Daniel had stolen. Every excuse he made. Every person who looked the other way. I'd spent years covering for their mistakes, cleaning their messes, sacrificing my own peace and success. But now it was their turn to face consequences. I wired a final payment to my parents' account. The memo read, severance. No more bailouts. No calls. No explanations. Just a clean break. The next day, Daniel was arrested at his downtown condo. I wasn't there and I wouldn't be. I refused to watch the final act of a family drama that had dragged me into shadows for too long. Weeks later, the dust started to settle. The law firm was in chaos. New leadership, lawsuits, PR damage control. Daniel's career was over. But me. Somehow, my name floated above the storm. Investors called me, partners respected me. The woman who had been invisible was suddenly in demand. But success came with a hollow victory. At a charity gala, a well-meaning acquaintance leaned in. "So, Eliza, how does it feel to be the family's saving grace?" I smiled politely, but inside I was screaming. Saving grace. I wasn't a savior. I was a survivor. A warrior who fought battles no one saw. One evening my phone rang. It was my mother. "Eliza, please. Can we meet? Just once." I looked out the window, city lights shimmering like distant promises. "Where?" "Yes. At the cafe we used to go to when you were a kid." I agreed because maybe I wanted to hear what she had to say. Or maybe I needed closure. The cafe was almost empty when I arrived. Mom was already there, hands trembling slightly, eyes searching mine. "Eliza," she began, voice cracking. "I want to say I'm sorry. For everything. For choosing Daniel, for asking you for money, for not seeing you." I looked at her, really looked. The woman who had been my cheerleader and my anchor, but also my chain. "I wasn't invisible," I said softly. "I was just ignored." She nodded. "You were always strong. Maybe too strong for me to understand." I took a deep breath. "I'm not here to forgive. I'm here to say goodbye." Tears welled in her eyes. "Don't go." "I'm not going anywhere," I said, standing up. "But this family, it's not mine anymore." That night I sat alone in my apartment, the silence both heavy and liberating. I thought about Daniel, what he lost, what he could never fix. I thought about my parents, what they sacrificed, what they chose to ignore. And I thought about me. Not the backup plan. Not the silent bank. Not the shadow behind Daniel's spotlight. Me. Liza Moreno. The woman who refused to be invisible any longer. I looked in the mirror and for the first time in years, I smiled without regret. Because sometimes, the only way to be seen is to walk away.